Hello everyone, my name is Master Steve, and welcome back to Age of Empires 2. Previously we took a look at the Britons and how to play them, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Bulgarians. The Bulgarians are a civilization that have a ton of late game options, but they are vulnerable early on. I personally would say they are very similar to the Byzantines in the sense that they are a very defensive civilization, and they have a lot of unit variety, but they need to be played in such a way that they can reach the late game. So new players kind of, gravitate towards the Byzantines. And honestly, if you're a new player who just plays the Byzantines nonstop, the Bulgarians are kind of a, new civ that you'd probably feel very comfortable with. So the Bulgarians do not have any economic bonus early on, which means that they're going to struggle to reach the late game because their Dark Age is just terrible. You have nothing to help you out, and you need to have something going for you. You need to have a Dark Age rush and hopefully get yourself into a fast castle position. So civilizations such as the Mongols and Britons, who can reach the feudal age early, can really put pressure on the Bulgarians and make it really, really hard for them to get anything going. If they get your boar stolen or any of your sheep stolen, you're pretty much a sitting duck and will never be able to get to your strong late game options. So this is why they're strong on maps like Black Forest and Arena, where they can set themselves up very defensively, but super weak on Arabia. So once the Bulgarians reach the feudal age, they get to take advantage of their first civ bonus, which is they get their militia line upgrades for free. Bulgarians can pull off a top tier man-at-arms rush if they take advantage of their team bonus, which is they and their allies get blacksmiths that work 50% faster. That is an absolute huge bonus, which means in team games the Bulgarians are an amazing teammate to have, and the Bulgarians really do thrive in team games. This means that they can make their man-at-arms super deadly with quick blacksmith upgrades, but the lack of an economic bonus means they're just spending their resources super quickly without any way to replenish them. So that's why it's super important the Bulgarians need to keep a balanced economy, and really that's why you see high-level players play them very well but not very often, as they're pretty much a D-tier civilization in 1v1 Arabia games. So, the Bulgarians really do not have any other options besides a man-at-arms rush early on. They can go for an archer rush, but they're a lot like the Spanish with the fact they do not have access to crossbows. So their super weak range units mean that the Bulgarians need to rely heavily on their infantry and cavalry for their military. Bulgarians can go into feudal scouts, but the heavy food cost of scouts can stretch their economy to the limit and significantly hinder their progression to the Castle Age. If the Bulgarians start out with a Dark Age rush, they can really take their opponent off guard, and then the instant upgrade of man-at-arms upon hitting the feudal age really makes them all the more deadly. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're playing the Bulgarians. Always try to make an effort to go for man-at-arms early on. So it is important for the Bulgarians to set themselves up in a very defensible position in the feudal age. You need to make sure you have your entire base scouted out and see where your wood lines are, where your resources are, and decide how you want to wall. If you can wall yourself up and kind of turtle up and get your eco going into a good boom, you're setting yourself up for an amazing late game that your opponent won't be able to stop. You just need to make sure that your opponent cannot pressure you early on. You got to have your walls up. You got to make sure that you're really looking after each and every villager, because if the Bulgarians lose just a few villagers early on, then game's over. It's really not even close, because if your opponent gets 6 or 7 villagers ahead, you're never going to catch up, and your lack of an economic bonus really is going to come back to bite you. So if you can manage to reach the Castle Age, the Bulgarians can finally unleash their full potential. The Bulgarians are the only civilization that gets access to the Craypost, which I can basically describe to you as it's a miniature castle. And honestly, they're a super good defensive building to build. And if you use them offensively, go for a Craypost drop right in your opponent's face, they're going to prove to be super effective and be an absolute pain to deal with. So the Craypost only costs 350 stone, which means that you can build 2 of them for only 50 more stone than 1 castle. Now, the Craypost does not replace the castle, because the Craypost only lets you train the unique unit, and the castle lets you train the unique unit and lets you get all of your unique techs and upgrades. And you can train trebuchets from a castle, but not from a Craypost. So kind of keep that in mind. You can build Crayposts, And the only thing I would really use Krapos for is aggression in your opponent's base, or, just build them up as a standard military building and start massing up the unique unit. So, the Krapos actually has about the same attack as a castle. If you look at Spirit of the Laws video where he goes over the attacks of different defensive buildings, the Krapos is actually one of the better ones. I highly recommend you go check out his video. And honestly, the Krapos is just such a great building to put up in your opponent's face, as you can just keep mining stone, keep putting more and more of them up, and your opponent's going to have a super hard time dealing with them. Now, as I mentioned before, the Krapos can train the Bulgarians' unique unit, the Conic. So, the Conic is, it's a very, very fun unit to use because it's a cavalry infantry hybrid unit. It's the only unit in the game where if the horse is killed, the rider on top of it will simply stand up and keep on fighting, which is kind of cool, but it's kind of, there's a catch to it. You have to get cavalry upgrades and infantry upgrades for your conics. So if you want the little rider to get off the horse and start being any use at all, you got to make sure you have your infantry upgrades. And getting infantry and cavalry upgrades is super, super expensive on your gold. And if you go for elite conic, it's even more gold. So you really need to make a choice of what you're going to do. Because another great thing about the Bulgarians is they get full access to the Nightline. They get paladins. And their unique tech stirrups allows cavalry to attack 25% faster, which means that their cavalry is just top tier and they're absolutely amazing. However, you gotta choose one or the other. If you try to go for paladins and conics, you're spending way too much gold, and you really should have just gone for training up one unit or the other. So make the choice early on. You don't have to go for the conic. You don't have to feel pressured to go for their unique unit because, like I said, their Nightline is a perfectly viable option, and they're great. So you can't go wrong either way, but if you go for both of them, your eco is really going to struggle. Now, the Bulgarians do get a great bonus in the Castle Age, and it's that their town centers cost 50% less stone. If you hold on to the original 200 stone you start the game with, you can build an additional 4 town centers of the Bulgarians if you want to set yourself up for a massive economic boom. Now, you don't have to build 4 town centers. Like I said, 3 town centers is usually the standard boom that people go for, but you can go for more and really set yourself up to get a ton of map control with town centers. So kind of keep that in mind when you're playing the Bulgarians. You got to make sure when you hit the Castle Age, you expand your economy and start getting a ton of gold, as your only options are super gold intensive. So the Bulgarians are pretty good in the Imperial Age. You get access to siege ram, siege onager. You get full siege, and it's absolutely great. So if you just mix in a little siege with your deadly cavalry units, and you can stick with the infantry, like I said, as they do get the militia line upgrade for free. So you only get up to 2-handed swordsman, but you get a unique tech called Baggins, which gives your infantry +5 attack. So your 2-handed swordsmen are still very, very viable in the Imperial Age, and they're just a nice unit to kind of mix in to deal with halberdiers that are trying to take out your conics. So just kind of keep that in mind. Do not ever forget about your militia line. So they're a hard civ to play because of how defensive they need to be. You don't get fortified walls, and you have to rely heavily on your castles and cray posts. But, they're still a fun civ to play just because of their unique unit. So, in 1v1 Arabia games where the map is wide open, the Bulgarians are a hard civ to play just because they can't set them up very defensively. Now with the September update, you only get 3 wood lines. It makes it really a lot harder to wall sometimes. So that really is a nerf to the Bulgarians. And in team games, the Bulgarians, they can prove to be a great ally with their 50% faster blacksmiths. And honestly, if you get trade going as the Bulgarians and keep your gold income going, then you're going to be able to pump out a ton of conics. You can even go for in a team game, if you have good trade, you can go for both, and you can really start setting yourself up to be an unstoppable force in the late game. So, there you have it. That's everything you need to know about the Bulgarians and how to play them. They really are a D-tier civilization in 1v1 Arabia games due to their lack of an early economic bonus and their need to play defensively, but in an open map like Arabia, they're going to struggle big time. In the team games, however, they're easily a B+ tier civilization, as their team bonus is super useful to everyone, and trade allows them to pump out their conics and become an unstoppable force in the late game. I hope you all enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did enjoy the video, let me know down below in the comment section and tell me what civilization you'd like to see next. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and help me reach my next milestone of 50 subscribers. That's all for this video. See you in the next one.